Hi, I'm Trisha Bear from the Culinary Command Post, and today I'm going to show you how to make pistachio cherry cookies. So the first thing we need is a 1 3/4 cup of powdered sugar that was sifted. I've already sifted it and put it in our stand mixer. And then we're going to need 1 1/4 cups of unsalted butter. So I've already let this sit out at room temperature for several hours. So now we're going to add it in there with our powdered sugar. We're going to mix those two items up first. And don't forget to stop your mixer and scrape down the sides, because a lot of the powdered sugar will stay on the sides. So we can scrape down our sides. Okay, so we mix it about 90 seconds, and then we're going to add our vanilla, which is 2 teaspoons of vanilla, almond extract, which is about 1/2 teaspoon, and then we're going to add 1 egg and let that mix up. Okay, we're going to let that mix up, and then we're going to go ahead and scrape down the bowl again, just because the powdered sugar is still sticking to the bottom and the side. Okay, and then now we're going to add our dry ingredients, which is going to be 3 cups of flour. Then you have your baking powder, which is 1/2 teaspoon, and then 3/4 teaspoon of salt. We're going to add about 2 1/2 cups of flour and wait until the end to see if we need to add the other 1/2 cup. Okay, now I saved about 1/2 cup, so in case we need it, we can use it at the end. And then that was the salt, and now we're putting in the baking powder. And we're going to mix those up and see what the texture is. And we're just gently mixing this up. So just a short mix is all we're doing on that. And if you need to scrape down the side, you can do that also. Then now we're going to add our pistachios and cherries and mix until they are incorporated. Undermix rather than overmix, because you don't want to overmix, because you don't want to, basically, if you overmix it, your cherries are going to turn your dough red. So we're just barely mixing it in. I'm going to scrape it down one more time before we put those in, though, because I still see a lot of flour on the side. Mix it one more time, and then we're going to put in our cherries and our these are actually glazed cherries, so it's a candied cherry, not a maraschino cherry. So it's not the same. So don't use maraschino. Okay, so now instead of adding the 1/2 cup of flour right now, we're going to put in the cherries and pistachios and see if we do still need to add those. So I'm using honey roasted pistachios that I chopped up instead of the regular ones, but you can use whichever ones you like. So we're going to gently mix it, because like I said, we don't want the dough to turn red. We just want to mix in our ingredients. Once you chop them up, it's better to put them in a bowl, actually, so they don't go everywhere. Okay, so that's our pistachios and our glazed cherries, which is a candied cherry. I had to order those online because I couldn't find them at Walmart. Now we're going to mix it up just briefly. Okay, now I'm going to take them out, and we're going to roll the dough, I'm gonna actually mix it with a spoon just to make sure it's mixed up. We could have added the flour, but I don't want it to be too dry. So we're not going to add the last half a cup. I'm thinking it's okay like it is. Okay, so now we're just going to mix it up a little bit more with our hand, with our little spatula. Mix it up, and then we're going to roll it out. Flour our mat that we're going to roll it out in. And we were trying to get it to be 3/8 of an inch thick. And so I'll show you my measured rolling pin. And this is how you know how that you're getting it the correct thickness by this rolling pin. Now I'm going to put gloves on and see if it's going to stick together. Now we're going to use these flat cookie sheets to cook them on that are supposed to have some kind of moisture barrier. Yep. So the dough is sticking together like that, so you should be able to roll it out. There, that should be good on that. Yeah, I don't think we needed another half a cup of flour for this. Plus, we're going to put a little flour on our mat anyway, so it's going to get some flour that way too. Alright, so I'm going to get the mat out and the 2 baking sheets. Okay, so I just got out my baking mat and my measured rolling pin. So it's got different measurements on the end, different colors, or stand for different measurements. So we want these cookies to be 3/8 of an inch thick in thickness. So I'm going to leave that cap on because that's how thick we need them to be. If we wanted them thinner, then we'd take off that cap and go down to the other sizes, which are, there's 4 different sizes on here. But you want to make sure that your rolling pin has all-purpose flour on it, and so does your mat. So we're going to sprinkle some on the mat before we put the dough out. And we're going to roll it to 3/8 of an inch thickness. And I've got the oven on 375. There you go. Alright, I'm going to get my gloves on, and then we're going to roll that dough out to 3/8 of an inch thickness, and I'm going to put some flour on this measured rolling pin. It's really helpful when you got to measure the cookies a certain thickness. And you can use that by putting on these or taking these off, like that. Once you get the dough rolled out, then you're going to let it sit in the fridge for about 20 minutes. And then we're going to cut it after it's already, well, we can go ahead and cut it now. Yeah, we can go ahead and cut it now and then let it chill for about 20 minutes. Now, if you put it in the freezer, you're going to freeze it for 20 minutes. But if you put it in the fridge, it's 30 minutes. So we'll go ahead and put it in the freezer. If there's room in there, we'll put it in there for 20 minutes. Just make sure it's all spread out and on your rolling pin, like that. Because you don't want it to stick to your rolling pin, so that's why you got to keep the flour on that. Alright, so we're going to take it out of here and roll it out to 3/8 of an inch thickness. And I'm going to use this right here. And I got this cool wooden spoon. It says, "Let 'em eat cake." So life's too short not to eat cake. Anyway, that's my favorite wooden spoon. See, the dough is going to fall right out. Just like that. So just kind of make sure it's put together, sticking together. It's not sticking to my gloves. Now don't knead it too much because you don't want to mix it up or knead it too much because you're just trying to roll it out. Alright, so we're going to use our rolling pin with the flour on it, and we're going to gently roll it back and forth. And it's still sticking just a little bit to the rolling pin. Even though we put flour on, it's still sticking. And these end caps are supposed to stay on. Okay. So just roll it out. And how you know it's 3/8 of an inch is the green caps will be touching the table. So that's how you know that's 3/8 of an inch. Alright. So I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to roll it the other way. So it's not off the mat. Just like that. You gently roll it, and then once that green end or whatever measurement you're using touches the table, then that's as thick as you want it. Okay, so we've rolled it out. I'm just kind of tucking the edges in, and we can set it in the freezer for 20 minutes or the fridge for 30. We're going to look and see if we can do it in the freezer. Yeah, we can put it in the freezer for 20 minutes, and then we'll come back, and we can go ahead and cut the shapes now too. We can go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and cut the shapes of the cookie before we put it in there. So this one comes with, I think I got this on Temu, but anyway, it comes with all different sizes of rings on it. So you just pick out whatever size cookie you're going to make. Since, as you can see, it doesn't make a ton of dough, I'm going to use a smaller one, about this size, to make the cookie, so I'll have more cookies. We're going to do that. So we're going to do the smaller ones, and then we're going to put it in there. Now when we get it out of the freezer, we're going to be putting it on this anyway. So we're going to go ahead and spray this pan and put the dough on this pan once we get this. Once we get the cookies cut, we're going to go ahead and put them on this. Just like so. Okay, and if you want to dip this in your flour, your extra flour, and it'll make it not stick to it also. See? So I'm just going straight down and turning it just a little bit, just to get my shapes. And then we'll stick it in the freezer for about 20 minutes. See, if you don't have flour on it, it's going to stick. You can even run it on this flour here, actually. And as we cut it out like this, I'm going to go ahead and set it on the cookie sheet. And I'm going to spray the cookie sheet just a little bit. You really don't have to use parchment paper for this type of pan, the Good Cook pans, because it's going to have a moisture barrier anyway. So we're not going to use parchment paper because I found they cook just as fine without it. Put them right here. Okay, so now we're going to put them on the pan that's already been greased, I should say. Not greased, but sprayed with Pam is what I meant to say. And then we're just going to barely pop them out like that. All right. So let's go ahead and do the ones we already had cut. Just like that. Just leave them about an inch apart. And I also have this handy dandy tool over here. It's a little bench scraper, but you can also use it to pick up your cookies. Like so. These are cherry pistachios, which I like pistachios because I get kidney stones, and most nuts cause kidney stones, except for pistachios. That's one of the nuts you can't eat. So I've kind of switched to pistachios instead of the other nuts because I like having nuts on my dessert. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and cut out our remaining dough in circles. Just like that. Now the one reason you want to chill the dough, whether it be in the freezer or the fridge, is because if you don't, it's going to lose its shape and it's going to be flat. And you want to have a certain thickness of cookie and also to keep its shape. That's why we're going to stick it in the freezer. 20 minutes in the freezer or 30 minutes in the fridge. Alright, now we're going to put them in the freezer for 20 minutes. Let them chill. And then we'll take them out and put them in the oven. It's 375 degrees right now in the oven. So we're making cherry pistachio cookies, and I just had them in the freezer for about 20 minutes. You could leave them in the refrigerator for 30 minutes, but we did it for 20 minutes. And now we're going to put them in our preheated oven at 375 degrees. Both fit on at once. So we're going to do one batch and then we'll do the other one. Good, so it's baked for 9 to 12 minutes, depending on your oven.
Okay.
So we're going to do 9 minutes. It's 12 minutes. All right, those are done. I'll let those cool, and all I got to do is put the icing on them. All right, so we have our cherry pistachio cookies in the oven, and now we're just going to mix up a little cream cheese glaze to go on them once they get done. So we're going to add, at room temperature, we have 4 ounces of cream cheese that we're going to mix up with our butter first. And it's actually 1 cup of butter. Use that to get off. Okay, that's good. 1 cup of butter, which is basically actually it's half a cup of butter, which is 1 stick. These are just miniature sticks, which is 8 tablespoons total. So it's half a cup of butter that's been sitting at room temperature. We're going to mix that up first, and then we'll mix up our powdered sugar, our vanilla, and our almond extract. And this is going to be a icing we can put on our cookies. Okay, so now we're going to add in our vanilla and our almond extract. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then 1/4 teaspoon of the almond extract. Just a 1/4 teaspoon. And then we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar that I've already sifted. And that's going to be our cream cheese icing for the cookies once they get done. Okay, and if you want to make the icing colored icing, you can put a little bit of food coloring in it, and I'm just going to put a little drop because this is red. So on the color wheel, red and white will make pink. So we just want to put a little bit, a drop or two, and mix it that way and see what color it comes out. Okay, that's good on that. We're just going to scrape it down. Scrape the sides down just to make sure we incorporate all the flour. Yeah, it's turning it a light pink, which is the color that red and white makes on the color wheel for art. Okay, so now it's got a pink color to it. I'm gonna add a little bit of heavy cream just because I want it thinner than that. So I'm just gonna add a tiny bit. Just like that. Just to make it a little bit thinner. All right. Before I totally take it off of there, I'm going to taste it really fast just to make sure it's going to taste good. Yeah, tastes just fine. Alright, and that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be pink. Make sure I got everything mixed in with the spatula. And it doesn't make a ton of icing for that recipe, so that's what it should look like. It should have pink color or whatever food coloring you put in it. That's the color it's going to be. And our cookies are still in the oven. They should be done in about 2 minutes. We're going to check them because this is not my oven, so I want to see, make sure it's going to be done. Alright. And that's it. That's how you make icing. Now we're just waiting on our cookies to get done.